All right, as we get into this match, we are going to have Scott Markeson versus Patrick Côté, Ruby Sapphire versus Amethyst Steel. Let's get to the feature match area and start this semifinal match. Scott, of course, having the second seed from yesterday, is going to be able to choose if he wants to be on the play or the draw. I would be very surprised if he chose anything other than the play, so likely to go first here. Could be good for him, especially going against this Amethyst Steel list.
So we've already seen this matchup play out already on stream. While it was a different Amethyst Steel list, I think that some of the early strategies do remain the same. Patrick's likely going to look to come out aggressive, especially in this early game, even on the draw. And Scott's going to look for that really good curve of that 1-drop item into, most importantly, that 2-drop acceleration and a 4-drop off the back of that on turn 3, which is Sapphire's decks do the best.
And we can see Scott altering 6 cards from his hand as well. Again, these players know what each other are playing. This is an open deck list portion of the tournament, best of 3. So each player had some time to look at each other's deck list, know what the strategies are going to have to be in order for them to win. Something that I'm interested to see how Patrick plays this out is, one of the things that we've seen in Amethyst Steel specifically this weekend is the power of some of these Amethyst cards that replace themselves when on board. Cards like Merlin Rabbit, cards like Diablo, you can play them out. They're characters that have lore on them, but if they are banished by the typical control Ruby Sapphire game plan, which is just to take control of the board, banish your opponent's characters turn after turn, they draw cards. Something interesting about Patrick's list is he went for the full Genie line here, not having any Merlin Rabbits in play either. Instead, going for more of a dock line. I think there's 4 of the docks that allow you to discard your hand, draw 2 cards. So interested to see if that comes up against this Ruby Sapphire matchup specifically.
Yeah, it's going to be a much different deck experience than we saw with Zach Bivens, who had another version of Amethyst Steel. Looks like no 1-drop item here for Scott. When we looked at the altar phase for Patrick, did ship back a group of 3-drops and 4-drops, so likely looking for those 1 and 2 drops to come out aggressive. I think that spoke, kind of gave us a bit of an insight on his potential strategy.
Do you see a couple 1-drops in Patrick's hand? I believe, I know the Smee's at the front there. I think there was a Calhoun as well. Looking to see in Scott's hand to see if we have the turn 2 ramp. I don't see it immediately, but we're going to start with a Magic Broom from Patrick on his turn. Do you find the Pawpsicle for Mark? Draw a card. I don't think we have the turn 2 ramp, which not particularly great against this matchup for him.
Actually, the first time I've seen that this tournament. I mean, chances to... You remember how many cards Scott sent back?
6.
Okay, so he did... Maybe needed to go for the 7th there. That's actually the first time that I've seen that this tournament. Having, if you are playing a 60-card Ruby Sapphire deck, the chance to find a 2-drop acceleration in those top 14 cards is very, very high with 8 copies.
You have a bit of an awkward card in hand, too. He's playing 1 of the Queen of Hearts Impulsive Ruler here, the 2-drop 2/2 with Rush, used to sort of combat some of these earlier aggressive decks, but on turn 3, you don't really want to be spending the 2 ink to play it. You want to be playing out your 3 ink. We do have Sisu, Daring Visitor, which is going to be played. It's a basive card, but when played, can banish a character with 1 strength. You can go ahead and banish that Magic Broom.
Actually,
Patrick can't get the card draw off of it.
I don't mind the Queen here. I know it's not going to come down ideally on curve, but I think that if it was not a great card, Scott actually would have inked it potentially a bit earlier. I think that Scott sees that he can maybe get a bit more utility out of this just to contest board and slow Patrick down. Because if he slows Patrick down, Ruby Sapphire is a significantly better mid to late game deck than Steel Amethyst.
I can definitely see where later in the game, especially with some of these smaller characters that Patrick might be playing out, these 1-drop 2-cost characters, or 1-cost 2-cost characters, use that Queen of Hearts to sort of surprise your opponent. Without the ramp, it's going to be a little bit tough. We do have a Hiram Flaversham in his hand, though, maybe to follow up on the next turn. If you look at Patrick's hand, he has a couple options for this turn. Do have a White Rose available to play. We also could do Calhoun and a Magic Broom. Going to go with the White Rose. It's going to gain Patrick a lore when it enters play. West with the Smee before the turn passes to Scott.
We had damage counter that goes on that Smee, so now it could be run into by this Queen of Hearts.
Scott finding a Vitalosphere off the top there.
I wonder which direction Scott's going to go. I could see him not actually playing the hero in this turn and just opting to try to take control of this board and slow Patrick down, because that's clearly Patrick's game plan, is to be the aggressor in this matchup. And if you stop him from doing that, I think that you're in a good spot as the Ruby Sapphire player. That being said, does end up playing the Flaversham, draw 2 cards, quest with the Sisu.
We pass it over to Patrick. We're going to ready our characters, our Inkwell, and draw for turn. Find a Pete off the top. Could be good for a little bit later, especially on these following turns without a Pawpsicle in play. A lot of Ruby Sapphire players like to sing how far I'll go with Hiram, which we see Scott does have in hand. We find the Pete play that would stop that. Instead, Patrick's going to choose to ink the Pete this turn. I think we're going to go for a slightly wider board here, playing the Calhoun with 2, following it up with the Turnabox followers and a broom. 5 characters on board for Patrick here, putting the pressure on for Scott.
Yeah, so now I really do like this Queen of Hearts. You know, has this turn 5 Maui to really contest the board. But, you know, Patrick, once you run him out of juice here, he's only really got the dock to refill, so it's significantly less card draw than other iterations of this deck. And we see that Patrick doesn't have any of those docks in hand as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was concerned about for Patrick's deck, to be honest with you. The only cards that really replace themselves on the board currently are the Magic Broom and the Turnabox followers, but that's sort of on your own turn and your own when you play cards yourself. So very different than these Diablos or Merlin Rabbits that we see played in the Amethyst steel lines as well. So if Scott's able to find ways to dwindle Patrick's board down without that dock in hand, not able to find it, he might just kind of break out and Scott can gain advantage, especially as he gains ink throughout the game. Scott taking a second to decide what he wants to play. I think we drew Grammatala off of the top there, have a couple options. We ink this turn, we'll have 5 ink to work with total.
So maybe just worried about that Calhoun and opponent getting value out of that. So go ahead.
Calhoun, a very strong card from Azurite C with resist +1. When she challenges and banishes a character, you do gain 2 lore, very similar to the Robin Hood that we've seen in other steel decks from the past. So definitely something to look out for here.
Could have a bringing the Grammatala to the front. I was wondering if you're going to see potentially like a Brawl plus a Queen of Hearts here.
Exactly what I was wondering. With 5 ink available, could get rid of 2 characters in that way.
Once you take control of the board, you can play out that Vitalosphere, quest with the Hiram. Kind of cruising as long as your opponent doesn't find a dock. Like it is going to sing the how far I'll go. Look at the top 2. One will go to the ankle, one with the hand. The prep was the one taking a hand while the 3 costs. But well there. We're going to go ahead and take out this Brawl. Like we get that turn box followers.
Like we're going to use the last 2 ink for that Queen of Hearts, as you mentioned earlier, Brendan. Using it to sort of crash out and banish a character by surprise. Taking out the Smee as we move over to Patrick, drawing a Merlin Crab. I mean, that's not a terrible draw. We can use this with the Calhoun to banish the Hiram on this turn. Gonna quest with the Magic Broom, play out this Crab.
Not terrible, but really not great here, honestly. Patrick has got to find one of the now to run out of gas.
We are gonna banish the Broom. Draw a card. It is another Turnabox followers, so we're just going to quest with the White Rose here. And as we see on screen, this Be Prepared could be coming down. Scott has 6 ink in the Inkwell, which means we can ink, go up to 7, play Be Prepared on an empty board for us, but a full board for Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely going to slam that Be Prepared here. I think a nice 4-for-1 with your opponent having 0 cards in hand doesn't really get much better. Just thinking about what to ink here. Looks like it is going to be the Maui 5 cost. You know, keeping that item potentially for a future hero. It does look like it is the debate. Are we going to ink the Maui? Are we going to ink the Vitalosphere?
Vitalosphere could also be useful with this Maui Half Shark. If we can get the Half Shark and the Vitalosphere in play, you can sort of have a surprise Maui Shark played, challenge, bring back an action, but it looks like we are going to ink the Vitalosphere, play that Be Prepared down, and Patrick's board is wiped. The board state is reset.
Yeah, Patrick does have 5 drops in the deck as well in the form of Belle and Elsa. So there were some potential very bad draws there, having only access to 4 ink.
There's the Maui Half Shark we've seen so many times, giving these Amethyst Steel players a little bit of trouble. One thing to note, the only removal that Patrick is playing as well is Strength of a Raging Fire. No Along Came Zeus's, and with an empty board, that's definitely going to be difficult.
Yeah, it feels like Patrick is in a really, really bad spot right now.
Only finding the Turnabox followers off the top, playing that, of course. He's got The ice block in play. We're going to go ahead and quest with the Maui here. Sisu is going to come down, banishing that Chernobog's followers. The goat's going to be safe because it has 4 lore. But right now, Scott is in a great position.
Adam Fox, which is playable on this board state.
At least allows you to gain some lore, bouncing the goat back to hand.
Yeah, goat and bounce, very powerful combination, but this early in the game is going to be significantly less impactful. It seems like Patrick really can't turn anything sideways because that Maui half shark's going to threaten way too much value.
Yeah, there's a how far I'll go and be prepared in Scott's discard, both of which could be pulled back from that Maui half shark ability. I think this is a very critical turning point for Patrick here. If he can't find a way to stabilize, this is where Ruby Sapphire likes to take control. We already see the Sisu, the Maui in play. That's 4 lore every turn. The half shark has evasive. Sisu, of course, could be banished by the Madam M Fox next turn, but burst of 3 lore, welcome.
He's able to ink up to 9 here and then play the Maleficent Monstrous Dragon on that Madam M Fox.
Exactly what he decides to do. So the Sisu is going to be around for another turn, it looks like.
Back over to Patrick. Does find a white rose. So, I mean, has found his like faster lore gain cards in the sort of end game here, but Scott threatening so much lore here.
Yeah, not quite close enough for Patrick to close out the game through these cards like Goat and White Rose. We need to be a little bit closer to 20 here. And as every turn goes by, Scott's just going to play those large characters, all those dragons, and Half Shark. I guess he's kind of a dragon.
So up to 12 for Scott, only threatening 19 on the next turn. Obviously has top decks that can win him the game on the following turn. This Goat's going to go ahead and trade here. And that is a dock in the hand, by the way. Unfortunately, it was only on 4 ink for Patrick, so isn't able to utilize it. But did find the dock eventually.
Like we're going to...
3 costs. It's just going to be Hiram.
Use the ice block before we banish it with Hiram. Draw 2 cards. The White Rose now has 2 strength.
A Tipo and a How Far I'll Go. Yeah, opting to pay 4 ink for this How Far I'll Go, I assume.
Yeah, 4 lore on board. When we play this How Far I'll Go, we'll gain a lore from the Maui Half Shark for his second ability, pushing us up to 13. Means if we quest all the way out here, we could go up to 17 for Scott.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the amount of ink that Patrick has, it just feels like there's no way.
Yeah, only 4 ink for Patrick here. Fine to see how the odds are right. See, that's another lore gain from the Maui Half Shark going to 14. Gonna let Scott draw a card and ink an extra card for turn if you want to. We're just gonna exert everything. They're all going on a quest. Gonna go up to 18 lore. Patrick has to win this turn or somehow delay the game.
Do you think it is impossible for Patrick to win?
Gonna play out the dock, discard his hand, which has 0 cards. Draw 2 cards. Try to find answers. He doesn't have it. We see the fist bump. Scott's gonna take game 1 in this best of 3.
All right, that was... it was close-ish, right? I would say Patrick had a significantly better draw. Also was on the play. All right, so into the altering phase here. See if so. Remember, Scott did not have the turn 2 acceleration, which I think is actually a bit okay considering he was able to contest board so much and stop Patrick from getting out ahead.
Inclined to agree there. We do see...
Finds the one of Queen of Hearts again.
Yeah, I was about to say, finds the Queen of Hearts, finds the Pawpsicle. Queen of Hearts slightly better on the draw here because Patrick's going to have a character in play. You know, if he quests with that character, there's no 1-cost characters Patrick's deck that wouldn't be banished to this Queen of Hearts. So could be a play that we do on turn 2. Interested to see what Scott decides to send back.
It looks like Patrick sent a bunch of 3 drops and 4 drops back again.
Scott sending 5 cards back.
And I believe the keep was Pawpsicle and Queen of Hearts.
Okay. Interesting thought process there. Probably looking to contest board.
Well, the Queen of Hearts is in the deck for pretty much this situation.
That matchup, yeah, exactly this. Against these most aggressive matchups, you have to slow them down, especially when they're on the play. Perfect curve for that as well.
I think Queen of Hearts was the only keep last game as well. I think that was
I think it was. It was in the back of his hand, and I think that he brought all 6 cards to the front.
Imagine having the 1 of deck card in your deck. You get into the semifinals and you draw it in the opener every single time.
Looking at Patrick's hand, I think we have 2 1-cost Diablos there on the very right. A couple 2-cost characters. Gonna start with a Madamim Snake with that Diablo being played and passing it over to Scott.
Looks like Patrick maybe no dock once again. Not sure if it's a card you always keep in the opener. I assume you would. I think it's just absolutely critical to the backbone of this deck. But there's that Pawpsicles lead it off.
I think it could be risky as well. You know, it's an uninkable card. It's definitely not one you want to play on curve. You can sit in your hand for a little while. If you have too many uninkables in your hand, get a little awkward.
It's funny because the heuristic around Ruby Sapphire is, okay, no turn two ramp. What a disaster. But I actually think Pawpsicle and the Queen of Hearts into 3-cost uninkable Sisu is going to be a better curve.
Probably
in this
the
situation.
best curve that you can have right now.
I think Scott knows that and has actively manipulated his hand to get to that scenario.
Interesting playline here, too. If we play out the Queen of Hearts and challenge the Diablo, it still sets us up for, if Patrick quests with this Smee on the next turn, he'd take a damage, then the Queen of Hearts could challenge and banish that as well.
Yeah, which I think is a big play, not letting that Smee get 4 quest value. We saw that happen in the previous game, and it progressed Patrick quite a bit.
Also have an Ice Block available for that Daring Visitor Sisu that we might be able to use later. We do see the Queen of Hearts come down and challenge and banish this Diablo. Diablo will draw a card when it's banished, or Patrick will draw a card when Diablo's banished.
And it's Strength of a Raging Fire, which is not great here. Notably, Patrick, unlike Zach Bivens, who we saw on stream earlier, does not have access to the Inland Along Came Zeus. But that being said, the two Steel Amethyst decks are almost diametrically opposed. They're very, very different deck lists.
Yeah, Patrick relying much more on that dock for your draw in the game, trying to just empty your hand as quickly as possible. We are going to see Patrick ink that Strength, playing out the Calhoun and the Diablo. So Scott leaves any of his characters exerted. This Calhoun can challenge back, gaining him a little bit of extra lore. We see Patrick not questing with the Smee here, not wanting to offer the trade to the Queen of Hearts. I know Scott does have that Daring Visitor Sisu in hand we could use to banish the Diablo.
I think that's what we will see come down. I'd be surprised to not see that. It's just how the curve sort of works out. And then our turn 4 is looking very nice with that Hiram.
Yeah, with the Pawpsicle already in play.
Inking both of these Maleficent Monstrous Dragons. I think that Scott's setting up to be in a really nice position in this game. Patrick really needs to find something like the dock to refuel up to this. Even that, I don't know if it would be enough.
It's especially difficult because you know that the Queen of Hearts likely isn't going to be exerted unless it's going to be banished in a challenge. So the Calhoun likely is not going to be able to challenge back on that. The Sisu Daring Visitor is going to have evasive, so it can sort of quest or sing, do whatever it needs to do without fearing that Calhoun as well.
Has an option to deal with the Queen of Hearts. It's just a really bad option. Just the Strength of a Raging Fire.
Do have access to a Merlin Goat here. Like that's what we're going to play. Goat will gain a lore when it enters play. Decently statted character as well with the 4 strength. 3 willpower, can challenge into some of the larger characters that Scott might be playing. Paired with something like a Merlin Crab, can take out a Hiram or bounce through the Madamim Fox, which you do have in hand.
How far I'll go off the top. It's going to be nice for that Hiram if you don't find another item. Getting you more card selection, more ramp. Of course, you do see that 8-cost Sisu in hand as well.
You have a lot of uninkable cards in Scott's hand.
We'll be okay. We got Hiram.
Yeah, I don't think this Maleficent Dragon's coming out anytime soon. So we are going to see the Hiram being played. Immediately drawn to 2 inkable cards, another Hiram Flaversham, and I think that was a Vision of the Future. Gonna take the trade with the Queen of Hearts and the Smee here.
If I'm Scott, I'm feeling so comfortable in this game right now.
I really, since the very start of the game, Scott has not let Patrick basically keep his characters around for very long.
And Patrick's deck is so much worse than Zach's in extending to the mid to the late game because it just does not have this attrition card draw engine.
It just doesn't have the ability to continue to put threats out on the board. You know, I feel like Patrick's version of the deck just sort of relies on being super explosive in your opening, trying to gain a very early lead, sort of finish the game out with the Merlin Goats, White Roses, sort of extending the mid game while you can with your cards like Elsa the Fifth Spirit, and then relying on those docks with an empty hand to refill you and get you there. But when you're playing against Ruby Sapphire and they just have so many resources to remove your characters efficiently, Makes it a little bit easier for the Ruby Sapphire matchup for sure.
All right, back over to Scott here, going into turn 5. Does find the brawl off the top. How far ago available to sing for Hiram. Gonna give us a lot more card selection. Backup Hiram in hand as well.
Like we're considering it. We are going to sing How Far I'll Go with Hiram.
Maui, Half Shark, plus 3 cost Sisu are off the top.
Only have 1 Ice Block in hand, it looks like. I think the Sisu can't target anything on the board yet with comboed with the Ice Block. Looks like we're going to take the Maui Half Shark, put the Sisu in the Inkwell Exerted. Still have 4 ink to work with. 5 if we ink for the turn.
What are we going to see here? Another How Far I'll Go.
Looks like it. We'll look at the top 2. It's Sail the Azurite Seed, another Ice Block.
That Ice Block is not bad here.
No, not bad at all. We do have a Sisu Empowered Sibling, so we can get both of these Ice Blocks in play.
Set up for a huge board swing. But can we stop Patrick from getting too much lore before then?
Are going to go ahead and ink for turn, get one of those Ice Blocks down. Patrick does have a decent lead. Already 8 lore ahead. 4 lore on board, but the goat counts as another. It leaves play. Also opening up an opportunity for these Calhouns to challenge and banish the Hiram potentially. Do something like quest with the Merlin goat, bounce it with Fox, use the Fox to crash into the Hiram, and then finish it off with Calhoun to ensure we get that extra lore.
Patrick is definitely going to progress his win condition quite a bit here.
Then we're just going to use both of the Calhouns to challenge the Hiram. Neither will take a damage because they have resist +1. Going to quest with the White Rose here.
Potentially play out the rest of the hand.
Like we're going to play the Broom, play the Fox, bounce the Goat. We're going to banish the Broom. We are going to banish the Broom, digging a little bit deeper. We find the Elsa, the 5th Spirit. Got having a little bit more ink in his Inkwell than last game, so card we can use, not this turn, but maybe in the next couple. Then he passes it back over to Scott.
Scott's got to answer this board, though.
We can get the Ice Block down and shift the Sisu this turn if we want to. So could banish 2 characters.
That does look
the
like
third if we want to challenge with it.
Yeah, that does look like it's going to be the play.
See him holding the Ice Block, committing to the play. 6 ink available is exactly enough. Shift onto the Sisu Daring Visitor. We're going to choose to reduce the strength of both Calhouns, and there's the Sisu coming down, banishing both Calhouns because they have 2 strength or less at this point. And we see the Sisu challenging the White Rose, taking care of the majority of Patrick's board here.
Still, Scott sitting at zero lore.
0 lore, but this is about where Patrick was last game. This 13 lore threshold. Do still have a goat in hand. Feel like we're going to need a little bit more than goats and White Roses to close this game out with the way it's looking for Scott. Especially with the cards in hand like Visions of the Future, Grimmatala. Allows us to find some of the cards we might need to later.
And with the amount of ink, doesn't have like an easy access to a goat bounce in a single turn to protect the goat and play it again on a future turn. Gonna be a White Rose. I mean, those are the cards we're kind of looking for here. It's like it might be the Elsa for the turn. Just the most ink efficient play.
Yeah, Elsa having evasive as well. A little bit more difficult to deal with. Not too much for Ruby though. They do have the likes of Brawl, which we do see one in Scott's hand, and with the Ice Blocks. All of those Ruby cards that banish other cards based on their strength. And when you have 2 Ice Blocks in play, that's basically everything in the Amethyst Steel deck. Because anything that even has 4 strength, can be brought down to 2.
I think Patrick has an interesting scenario. Does Patrick trade with the Mata Mim? Or does he quest?
Potentially trade with the Madam Mim, develop a White Rose or a Goat. You play the Elsa out, use that to trade, quest with the
Can you trade, though? I feel like 1 lore is so impactful here. The opponent is threatening 3 and has a much better body. Yeah, I think you have to quest. Like, it's like the only way you're winning this game.
Do see the Goat played, gaining a lore. We're up to 15 at this point. Gonna see the Elsa being inked as well, and then passing over to Scott.
Ooh, a brawl. Double brawl in hand. These double ice blocks is going to be pretty nice for keeping this board under control.
Also have the likes of Maui Half Shark and Grimmatala in hand. Would be surprised if we didn't see a brawl played this turn, though.
My first inclination is brawl and trade and develop a Grammatala off the back of that just to get some more card selection set up to sort of close out and lock this game on the next few turns.
And get that goat off the board in case Patrick finds something like another fox or snake to bounce it back.
Does opt to ink the Grammatala, so it looks like it's going to be a Maui Half Shark plus that brawl play.
Do you see the Merlin goat targeted for with the ice blocks and brawl? Goes back.
Now Scott's going to trade.
Yeah. Wiping Patrick's board again. We're going to trade with the Sisu. That's fine for Scott. We know we can come back. Patrick draws for turn.
Going to be a dock.
Dock,
Best
pretty
card
great.
you could have drawn.
Be great right now. We have the ink to play it as well. We're going to start with the white rose to empty out our hand, then follow it with the dock. Now we get to draw 2 cards.
Patrick actually just came back into this game with that draw.
We have a Merlin crab and I think a snake.
Yeah.
You can ink this turn and bounce the white rose if you wanted to, just to keep it safe from being banished. Give us a little bit, another card that we could play and gain some lore immediately.
I kind of feel like that's the play.
Still threatening 2 lore on board if with the snake as well. You know, still have to answer those characters. Yeah, we're going to see the snake played. The dock's going to be bounced. Yep. Refill the hand on the next turn. Find that second brawl. We're using the ice block to banish the white rose. Getting rid of all of those cards on Patrick's side that gives him lore when they're played. Patrick is dangerously close to 20, so Scott understands the relevance of getting those cards out of play.
You got to remember, like, cards like a Pirate's Life exist, so while Scott might look close to 20, sorry, Patrick might look close to 20, Scott can find cards that can really slow that down. Looks like it's going to be a Merlin crab here, and of course the dock to draw 2 cards.
That's a Diablo he played. Is that another goat?
Yeah, that is another goat. So it looks like Patrick's going to be able to get across the finish line here.
Yeah, pretty strong board here.
Those docks coming in clutch.
Scott's got to find a way to take out at least one of the characters. No, 3 of the characters in play right now.
Yep, and then probably has to find something like a Pirate's Life off the back of that. I think it's going to be a Maui sail into the Azurite Sea.
Just digging to find an answer. Gain a lore from the Maui when play the Sail the Azurite Sea. Draw a card. Does Scott find an out?
3 costs out. I don't.
Oh, there's the Pirate's Life.
Out.
This is brutal. Singing Pirate's Life with Maui. It's going to enter the discard, but at this point, if Patrick quests with any of his characters, leaves them exerted, this Maui Half Shark can challenge them, bringing this Pirate's Life back into Scott's hand, and Scott can continue to cycle this Pirate's Life.
15 plus goat, so it's just going to be over.
Oh, okay. He does have it. Yep.
So we saw the power of Amethyst Steel on the play. Like, I think the dock was absolutely necessary to refuel the hand and keep Patrick in that game. But I would say Scott had a pretty good draw, maybe stumbled there a bit in the mid to the late game. But overall, really, really good opener. Finds his 1 tech card. All right, so we have Scott on the play. See if he finds the Queen of Hearts once again.
Does he have it?
No, not in the opening hand.
The odds aren't in his favor. He has already found it twice. He's going to send back 5 cards. Probably looking for it. Looking at Patrick's hand as well. I don't think we have...
Patrick's hand looks really bad.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of early game here. Just a lot of 2 and 3 drops. Not sure what the card on the table is. That might be a 1 drop.
Most likely is a 1 drop as the only keep here, sending 6 back.
No, it's actually a Smee. So no 1 drops in the hand. Going to send 6 back. Searching for something. Get on the board early, very likely, and try to keep some tempo. It's a lot of your sort of early mid-range characters too. I'm pretty sure that entire hand was like 2 and 3 cost characters. It'd be pretty bad if Patrick draws into some of his more expensive end of his deck. Take a second for these players to shuffle up, cut each other's decks, and then we'll get into the match. Scott, of course, will be on the play.
All right. Both players shipping back a significant amount of cards here.
All right. Here starts game 3 of the semifinals. Whoever wins this will be one of the finalists for the Disney Lorcana North American Championship. We're going to start with Scott.
No turn 1 Pawpsicle here for Scott. We do have the turn 2 acceleration, and we have Sail into the Azurite Sea, but we have a Hiram in hand with no item to pair with that. Now, how has Patrick done with this sculpting? I see 1/1 drop.
Did find a 1-drop.
Turn to box followers.
We have a couple 2-drop options as well to follow that up with. Not sure if we have the Smee for a more aggressive one, but we do have some Calhouns and Snakes. Madam Infox is going to enter the Inkwell. Is it going to be turn to box followers being played? Looks like it.
You think that is actually the only option potentially? Nope, 2 turn to box followers. So
Do you see the Smee in there now as well? We go back to Scott. We know he has that turn 2 ramp, depot, or sail the Azurite Sea.
I mean, Patrick does have turn 3 2-drop plus 1-drop available.
Might be inclined to play the Tipo in this scenario just to ensure that Patrick doesn't get an extra quest out of the turn to box followers, kind of forcing
He's
him
almost
to
forced
use
to play the Tipo here. Like, you just can't let him get any sort of additional quest. Thinking about the ink here, looks like it'll be Visions of the Future. A tight pick. Consider the Hiram.
Going to see the sail enter the Inkwell depot.
Yep. It's going to be Vision of the Future, which was inked with the Tipo.
Do you see the dock as well? I think Patrick just pulled a dock off the top.
He did just pull a dock off the top.
Find him out of him. Snake, are we going to...
Patrick sent 6 back, and his hand is looking pretty nice right now.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. If he can empty it relatively quickly, which he has the hand to do so, as we move into turn 3, turn 4, he's able to play more than one characters at once. Start to utilize this dock. We do see Mr. Smee being played. Gonna go ahead and quest with the turn to box followers, choosing not to banish it and draw a card, sort of forcing Scott to make this depot trade. We see Scott doing is the first thing for his turn. Scott, of course, having a little bit of extra ink, but we do have access to a Grimmatala that we could play this turn to challenge the Smee.
We are probably forced into playing that Grimmatala. Would rather trade the Grimmatala with something like a Queen of Hearts, but obviously not available. We got lucky enough to get that in game 1 and game 2. But no item for this Hiram, so it's got to be a Grimmatala. We're just thinking about the ink here.
Like we might be considering the Hiram for ink.
Yeah, not a lot of great options in the hand to actually ink with.
Yeah, no reason in holding it. It's not going to help you test the board.
Looks like has a follow-up how far I'll go for that.
Okay.
It's actually gonna just how far I'll go off the rip here.
Trying to ramp, get a little even further ahead in ink. Scott with 5 right now. Patrick can go up to 3. Essentially 2 turns ahead for Scott here.
So potentially trying to accelerate to that Maui half shark.
Yeah, maybe the Maui half shark.
support.
Even just insulating to an early Be Prepared or Sisu to come out. You know, Patrick hasn't put on a ton of pressure here. He only has the 1 lore from the Chernobogs and the 2 from the Smee. Going a little bit wide. I think Scott recognizes that, you know, Patrick playing a dock deck, he's going to try to empty his hand. We need a way to deal with a wide board.
A Maui half shark effectively says, like, you can't quest. Obviously, you still can, but it just threatens to gain a lot of value. So, yeah, I was just trying to accelerate to this Maui half shark by playing that how far I'll go on turn 4.
You see the half shark being played. Passing it right back to Patrick here. Has some kind of expensive cards in hand for what he's trying to do. 2 crabs and a goat. Really wants to empty his hand with this dock sitting there.
True.
He's going to decide to draw off this turn box followers. Finding a bell. Ancient Mystic can move a damage counter off of one of your characters onto an opposing character.
It's actually, I mean, I don't see the Smee getting there, but could be nice with the Smee. I think the Smee would get dealt with.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to...
I mean, if you exert Smee and Calhoun, the Maui half shark deals with the Calhoun, not the Smee.
I think so.
So then, turn 5, you play Bell and move those damage counters.
Still need to combo something to banish the Maui Shark, though.
Or you just let it grab how far I'll go again. Yeah, so I think Maui runs into Calhoun here, gets back how far it'll go. The Smee gets 2 damage counters, then you play Bell. And I guess you get value out of that on turn 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
only 2 damage counters on the Maui Half Shark. Still going to need something
Yeah. I
to
guess it's
banish
just
it.
like the idea of value, right? Being able to sort of refresh your Mr. Smee.
Yeah, getting something out of the Bell instead of just playing it straight, healing that Smee back up.
That being said, we do find a 5-cost Maui off the top here, which could stop that scenario from being possible
Yeah, Maui Hero to all being played means we could banish both Calhoun and Smee.
and could be done in combination with this Vision of the Future as well.
It's got a handful of inkable cards, so like we might Visions first. Solving our unknowns before we do our knowns. Looking at the top 5 cards of the deck. Choose one, put it in your hand, and the rest on the bottom.
Yep, trigger Maui Half Shark, 1 lore gain for Scott here.
And to be prepared, a brawl. I think a Pirate's Life is in there as well. Maleficent Dragon, the Sail, I believe, are the 5. Not quite sure what was taken there. Is it the Pirate's Life?
Yeah,
In the back of the hand?
that is what that is. I was actually thinking about that as well.
We
I was
can-
trying to run through the sequence of turns in which the Pirate's Life would be impactful and worth it, but it's kind of hard in the context of the one of Bell being drawn as well.
We can always sing Pirate's Life with Maui Shark. We are going to choose a challenge and banish the Smee here with the Maui Shark. Getting back that Visions of the Future from our
Yep,
discard.
and then we're going to ink that and play the Maui.
Exactly
Nice,
what happens.
yeah.
Good sequencing there. Using the card as ink and as filtering.
We see the power of Maui Half Shark.
Again, the only removal that Patrick is playing is Strength of a Raging Fire, which of course requires you to have characters in play.
Yeah, that card is just so bad in this matchup.
Yeah, it's not doing good. We are going to use Bell Mystic, though. We're going to move 2 damage counters off of Maui onto Maui Half Shark, cleaning up the Maui Half Shark. Great play there.
Chosen character to chosen character.
Huge play from Bell Accomplished Mystic here, cleaning up that Half Shark so that Scott can't continue to cycle these actions.
Okay, we're good. Awesome, thank you.
Bell having a pretty decent body herself, 4/4 with 2 lore. Makes her for a good quester, and usually if you challenge into her with anything, they get banished. We are going to have the Maui banish the goat here.
Picked up another Half Shark off the top of the deck, and it's going to be what's played for the turn. Passing back over to Patrick, knowing for the turn on the side of Scott. Going to see that dock deployed here pretty soon.
Do find a strength. It's going to go into the Inkwell, though. Likely just going to...
Double dock.
2 docks
Double
in
dock,
hand. That
yeah.
is tough. Going to play out a dock and play the other one here. So discard no cards, draw 2. Unfortunately, when you have 2 docks in hand, you have to discard your entire hand to draw cards. You never want to see 2 of them.
Yeah, luckily it's a May ability.
Yeah, you don't have to discard the hand.
You get the extra body on board.
You see a
Yes.
Smee and a Broom. Can play one of those this turn.
I think the main thing you're worried if you're Scott is a bounce, right? Because you don't want to see the dock recycled. You want to be able to get rid of those docks before they're bounced and get them sort of out of the game as quickly as possible. Pawpsicles off the top here for Scott.
Patrick deciding not to play out this Smee or this Magic Broom. Likely just an installation against a board wipe.
Be prepared. Off the top.
Play this Grimmatala. Look at the top 2 cards of our deck. Oh, we find a Sisu and another Popsicle. The Sisu would clean up the docks on Patrick's side of the board here. If we can get it in play.
Maybe looking to sing a Pirate's Life here with the Maui Half Shark.
Going to
Going to be a trigger up to 4 lore, down to 8 for Patrick. This game would be a lot scarier if Patrick potentially rips a bounce off the top.
Yeah, if he's going to do it, he needs to do it now.
Yep,
That
this-
Sisu sitting in hand.
Absolutely, this is the time. I mean, this is the draw, and it's going to be, well,
Think
looks to be a
another
magic
broom.
broom.
We can cycle these brooms if
Yeah,
we
could
really
still
want
find
to.
it. Could still find it. I mean, that would be very, very heads-up play to know that was your only way to win the game.
Yep. Gonna see one broom played, another one followed.
But it's just going to be the most ink-efficient thing here.
Banish one of the brooms, see what we find. Calhoun. We're gonna banish the other broom. Patrick is deciding to do that.
Does
Finding an
not
Elsa.
find it.
Won't find the bounce.
Patrick playing to his outs, though, knows he needs to be recycling those docks to win.
Understanding how important it is for him to keep a hold of this board.
Maybe considering holding back the Calhoun here to insulate against the be prepared. I think you just got to go for it, though. Notably, Scott only 2 be prepareds in the deck, so not the sometimes 4 of you can see in these lists. I think most Ruby Sapphires are off of 4.
Also, Patrick in an interesting situation here. As you mentioned earlier, when Maui Half Shark is in play, you don't really want to exert any of your characters. Quest or challenge. Scott could use that Half Shark to bring this Pirate's Life back.
And that's probably what he's going to do is run that Half Shark into the bell, then play the 8-cost Sisu.
Even have an ice block that we do. We have enough ink for the ice block and Sisu.
Well, the ice block was actually a really good draw, huh?
I don't think we have the ink for it. I think we're only at 7. So we could only ink and play the Sisu. Can't use the
Gonna
ice
be
block.
1 short off of that. That would have been pretty significant. But recycling this Pirate's Life is going to make this game really tough for Patrick.
It's going to be very tough. I mean, Patrick built a wide board up to 12 lore, already down 2 lore from the Pirate's Life. The amount of times that Scott continues to cycle the Pirate's Life is just going to make the likelihood that Patrick wins this game lower and lower.
There's probably some meta statistic, which is like X number of Pirate's Life played per game. Win percentage for Steel Amethyst significantly decreases.
Only inkable card in our hand is a Brawl, which would have to ink that.
I feel okay inking the Brawl. I mean, you could also play it. You're right. But
yeah, I'm not too concerned about it.
Yeah, so we're going to run into this bell, right?
Yeah, that looks like that's what we're going to do. Now we're taking the 4 damage, and the Pirate Life is pulled back.
So ink the Brawl. There we go. Oh.
Or are we waiting a turn?
Just B-prep the board.
Okay. B-prep the board. We're going to gain a lore from the Maui when that's played. Banish our Maui Half Shark and Grimmatala, wiping the board entirely.
Yeah, that is like a much safer play in the end, right?
Setting ourselves up to Sisu on the following turn for whatever he plays. Oh, he finds the dock off the top.
It's huge.
Great play for Patrick
Scott
here.
knows that's the 3rd dock that was just absolutely ripped off the top.
Kind of friends, too. Only one of in the deck for Patrick. Sisu coming down, banishing both the dock and the Elsa. 3 of the docks in the discard at this point for Patrick.
Yep, just some friends on the other side. Going to be the card in hand for Patrick here. Finds the 4th
the
dock.
other dock. Oh, my goodness. If there is any chance of Patrick staying in the game, it's finding all 4 docks.
Patrick has been chosen to stay in this game versus Ruby Sapphire.
Noticeably, Scott's a little bit low on cards in hand as well. Really without a way to gain them currently. We have Pirate's Life in hand.
Wow.
Patrick going to play out the goat and then just pass the turn with a dock and turn box followers in hand. Find a Maleficent Dragon. Also have another Sisu, I believe. Yep. Quest with the Sisu for 3 lore. Starting to close that gap that Patrick has held for quite some time.
So I wonder if Scott might need a little bit of card draw. I mean, this is going to be the last dock for sure.
I mean, at some point, if Scott can't find a way to start putting cards in his hand, he's just going to run out of removal.
I mean, Scott is threatening 5 lore turn. Has Pirate's Life. This is this 2-turn claw. Oh, wait. Did he ink Pirate's Life? He might have inked Pirate's Life.
Going to find the followers. The
And
broom. Scott's asking if you have the
come
buck.
on.
There it is.
Come on.
Still don't find a bounce card, though. Are going to play the white rose, so Patrick's going to gain a lore in that interplay. I feel like Patrick really needs...
This is a really tight match.
Patrick really needs to find a Madam M Snake or Fox here to get this dock back in hand.
I don't even know if he's bouncing the dock in some of those scenarios. Might be bouncing the...
It's the rose.
Yeah.
Close it out. It's got... Do we have the other CC in hand, Scott, though? Because if so, the dock is just wiped.
I don't know.
On the next turn. I think so. Yeah, the other Sisu comes down.
There we go.
That's 4 docks, entire board wiped for Patrick. This is looking rough for Patrick. 3 dragons on the board, both of them questing for 2. The other one questing, or sorry, for 3. The other one questing for 2.
Does look like Scott is going to go to the finals here. The North American Championships. Ruby Sapphire, our most played deck, showing out, making it all the way to the...
And Scott finds the snake too, just a little too late. Or Patrick finds the snake. He's going to give out the handshake, and Scott is going to be one of our finalists for the Disney Lorcana North American Championship.